All right, we'll get started, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this session on open textbook initiatives and OERs. If you're looking at me and thinking, gosh, JG, you look shorter and you got glasses and you straightened your hair.
You see me frowning?
There's a simpler explanation, which is JG sends his regards. He had a personal family emergency literally on his way to the airport to come here to Charleston. So he asked me to moderate in his place, and I'm honored to do so. I'm Shandon Quinn. I'm the Vice President of Product Management at BCRUS for the Digital Commons platform. And we are so thrilled to have been able to assemble and be a part of this panel with Michele and Karen. We've had the pleasure and joy of seeing over the last few years this emergence of OER and open textbook interest and the role that IRs, including Digital Commons, can play in supporting that. So it's a real treat, I think, that we have a couple of case studies and initiatives in progress that we get to hear from today with our panel. So I think the way that we wanted this to work was, it's a small enough group. We think this can be very interactive, very informal, very casual. Michele and Karen have both indicated that they are welcome to being interrupted or having questions interjected while they're talking about certain topics. So if there's a thought that sparks you, please don't hesitate to raise your hand or speak up, because that's what we're going for. So with that, what I'll ask is that Michele and then Karen give a brief introduction of yourselves, talk about your institution, at least with respect to perhaps the OA or OER landscape that you have on campus there, and then we'll let the discussion flow from there.
So I'm going to use the microphone, although I don't know if it's necessary. Hopefully you can all hear me. So my name is Michele Gibney. I work at the University of the Pacific, which is in California. It's a 3-campus university, so it's in Stockton is the main campus, but it also has campuses in Sacramento and San Francisco. Sacramento is mostly the law school, San Francisco is a dental school. There are 2 libraries, one on the main campus and one at the law library, or at the law school, which is the law library. The university was founded in 1851. It was the first chartered university in San Francisco. I've worked there for 3 years. I mostly just manage the institutional repository, so I also work on open educational resources and a bunch of other things. It's a very small library. Let's see what else do you need to know about it. So it has about 6,500 students, like 55% of those are undergraduate, the rest are graduate programs. Mostly stuff about the university. Okay, so and then in California, there are a lot of, not a lot, there's some legislation, state legislation surrounding OER that applies to public schools, so the University of California system, the California State University system, and all of the community colleges of California. We are a private, not-for-profit university, so the legislation does not affect us, but because it's happening at some really great UC and CSU schools, we kind of felt like we needed to do OER stuff as well. The administration thought that we needed to do that to compete with the other schools in California. Because of some really great community advocates basically at the university, from the Center for Teaching and Learning, the Technology and Education Committee, the Provost Office, and the library. We started the OER program in 2017. So the summer of 2017, they basically came up with this idea, dedicated $25,000 to it from the Provost Office to be administered through the Technology and Education Committee, to give out the $25,000 as grants to any faculty who wanted to work on OER over the summer of 2017. And they said, let's have the deadline be in like a month. So we did almost no advertising or marketing for it. There was a lot of meetings, and then it was just, let's just tell some faculty that are already thinking about OER that we knew about. And we told everybody, like we tended to, but it was hard to get the word out very quickly. But we did get, that first year, 11 applications, and we gave out 10 grants of $2,500 each. We had a workshop in the summer for them. We helped them throughout the summer. And when I say we, it was me and then my counterpart in the Center for Teaching and Learning, who's an instructional designer. So we worked with faculty one-on-one and all together for that summer. So again, we had $25,000 dollars. And then over the course of the next academic year, the OER projects were implemented in the classroom, and it saved students over $110,000. Administration decided this was a great result, and so they gave us more money for the next year and a lot more warnings. So we had a lot of time to prepare and do marketing over Open Education Week in March. So we did that, and I've given presentations on that before, and if anyone's interested, feel free to contact me and I can tell you the things we did. But we did that, so then we had, how many applications did we have that year? It's like 15 applications that year, and no, it was 20 something. No, sorry. It's probably 20, but we gave out 15 grants that year, which was really great to be able to give more and have more money for that. For those ones, so we got $35,000 from just those faculty. $153,000 was saved for students that academic year, which again was proved to be a good thing. So they did it again for the summer of 2019, which just happened. That one, we got 26 applications, gave out 21 applications, and we changed it a little bit. So we had decided that it might be good to have varying amounts of grant money. So the first 2 years, we had given $2,500 to everybody. This third year, we gave $250 if they were just reviewing an OER, $1,000 if they were just going, it's like but if they were going to adopt or adapt an existing OER. So if they were just going to use the microbiology OpenStax textbook, for example, and maybe do a little bit of extra stuff with it, but that's $1,000. And if they were creating an entirely new OER, we did $2,500. Karen has a different model that she'll talk about. So for that one, we got $30,000 from the Technology and Education Committee, gave out all the money. And I don't have a lot of statistics yet because it is November, and I really should, but I've been busy this fall. And my counterpart in the Center for Teaching and Learning left, which is very depressing because now I'm just by myself doing this, plus my other job, which is unfortunate. But I will have statistics on that soon. Some of the faculty have been doing it this fall already, and some of them have been sending me materials, as well as they've been doing surveys of the students to see, this has happened all 3 years, but so I do have some data already, which is really wonderful. So that's the basic, what we've done in the last 3 years. Most of the 3 years, we got applications from STEM faculty, so especially the first year, it was a lot of biology. The first year we had the 10, 8 were STEM, 2 were social sciences. The second year, 10 were STEM and 5 were social sciences. And this last year, there was 8 social sciences and 13 STEM, so it was better. So we are getting a broader range. Again, my hugest recommendation, if you're thinking of doing this on your campus and haven't started yet, is to have advocates on campus. So our best ones have been the faculty who did it the first year, one of whom got a grant the first year is now the OER committee. It's a very loose committee. He is the hugest advocate for it on campus. He's in biology, and so he's the head of the committee now, so we meet twice a year to discuss the programs. So it's great to have advocates on campus for you to, especially faculty who can talk to other faculty. He was very helpful in getting us this last summer when we were doing outreach during Open Education Week again. He got us into a bunch of different departmental meetings to present to the faculty about the program and encourage them to apply, which was very useful, which is we had not done the previous 2 years. It was great to just talk to them one-on-one or not in a group, so they could ask us very specific questions. I'm over my 5 minutes.
Oh, no.
Okay. So yes, so those are some of the things we're doing, and it's been really great, and I'm happy to talk about it more when we want to ask questions, but I will turn it over to Karen now.
So I come from a very different institution. I'm from Portland State University, which is located in downtown Portland, Oregon. It is in the heart of downtown. So our enrollment numbers are from fall of 2017, which I know these are probably pretty close to now. So we have about 21,848 for undergrads, almost 22,000 undergrads. We've got 5,500 graduate students, so our total population is around 27,000, just over. Our research and instructional faculty, we've got 1,900 research and instructional faculty. So we're a pretty large campus. We're only in one location. The thing that makes Portland State different from the other four-year college campuses in Oregon is our average age of graduate students is 26. So we actually have a number of older students, we have students with kids, we have a lot of students that come through the community colleges and then enroll in Portland State. So what is interesting is usually our junior and senior enrollments are higher than our freshmen. So it sort of is a different place than what you would find at, like, for example, Oregon State or U of O. So Portland State is now very much focused on reducing student cost and student retention. When we first started, it was not as much of a focus on campus, and I think that the impact that our open textbook project has created has really shaped the focus of the provost and where they want to go. So in Oregon, there is a state legislation around OER. That legislation was initially focused on the community colleges, and now it includes the four-year. So there are actual House bill that have passed that are forcing the universities to focus and designate low cost and no cost on their schedules. And there's also money for grants as well for the four-year schools as well as the community colleges, and a lot of those grants are focused on transfer students and trying to make sure that, particularly with the community colleges, that they all have the same textbook. My program actually started before Open Oregon did, so it actually started before the legislation. So we started in 2013. We developed an open textbook publishing program that's known as PDX Open. So we use PDX instead of PSU because everyone will think we're part of Penn State. So our books are all hosted on our repository called PDX Scholar. And we work with faculty to create open textbooks that are designed specifically for the courses that they're teaching. We initially received our support from a provost-backed initiative. The provost had some money left over and did a huge initiative across campus and said, hey, we'd like to fund something, let's make this into a competition. So the library went and participated and our program was chosen, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I just had to make it up as I went along, and I guess I was successful. So our whole goal is to save student money. We really want to facilitate research, and we want to remove barriers to information. So our first book was actually published in 2014. Since then, we have supported and published 21 open access textbooks. We currently have 8 in production. They are in many, many stages of production. Most of our books, so when we first started, we gave our authors a year to complete the book and found out that was a big mistake. Our books now take anywhere between 2 to 5 years to complete, and the reason for that is we don't have money for course buyout. So the faculty are writing these books at the same time that they are teaching, as well as doing all their research and living life. And life happens, and so we have created very strong MOUs in order to make sure that if for some reason the author needs to exit the program, we have means and ways to make sure that that their exit is good, that no money is being spent, that we don't have a result. So all of our funding is from donors. We are fully supported by donor funding. The university has a really great foundation, and they've actually carved out a section of their focus for open textbook creation. So we actually have a very active foundation that's out there raising money for us. So the library, we've never been able to carve out any money in our library budget, and so we've been very fortunate. Our Alumni Association is one of our largest donors. They have realized that by giving money, instead of giving money to individual stipends and giving money to this program, they're actually reaching more students and helping more students. So we started out our grants of giving all of our authors $2,500, and we quickly heard that that was not enough money. We actually had faculty that wanted to participate, but then heard how much funding they were getting, actually leave and not want to participate. So we've expanded our program to include Adopt and Adapt, like Michele does, as well as Creation. We are very much focused on high enrollment courses. So we had to define what high enrollment meant for us. So we now give out a range of 1,000 to 8,000. So 1,000 is for the Adapt and 8,000 is for the high enrollment. And a good example of a book that we gave $8,000 to is, it's a Spanish 101 book, and it covers 3 terms. So it'll cover the fall term, the spring term, and the winter, or fall, winter, and spring terms. So it is all of those students will never have to buy a book for their Spanish 100 level courses. So that is one of our $8,000 courses that we have been able to fund. And as I said before, we're not able to do course buyout. We provide the project management support, so this includes the regular check-ins, the workshops on copyright and Creative Commons, and assistance with distributing the author's budgets. So all of the money is actually distributed through the library administration. The authors have to identify how they want to use their funding, and then we work with them to distribute it. So we don't give the authors one lump sum. They have to tell us what they want to do with their funding. We actually have a heavy focus in world languages. And many of our books are 300 and 400 level courses. And the reason for that, we believe, is because of the pedagogy within world languages has quickly shifted, but the books were never keeping up. So many of our authors were already writing manuscripts and already doing the work, and they just needed the money just to get them over the edge, just to be able to publish. So our books have been used by over 3,000 PSU students since we started. We have saved our students over $300,000, and this will increase once we hit those high enrollment courses. The books have been downloaded over 196,000 times, and the global impact is they've been downloaded by over 216 countries, and I am now starting to hear from other institutions that are adapting our book. So I'm getting emails and phone calls from other librarians, as well as instructors wanting the editable version of our book. So we're now trying to adjust to meet those needs. I do have to just tout this because this is pretty amazing to me. Our most downloaded open textbook has seen over 124,000 downloads. It's a beginning Japanese for professional book, and it's our book 1. The author has completed book 2 and 3, but for some reason book 1 is really popular. In 2017, we became members of the Open Textbook Network Publishing Cooperative, and this gave us the opportunity to actually offer press-like services. So we were trying to contract out copy editing and design, and we're running into a lot of problems. I don't have a background in publishing. I really have no idea of what presses do. Well, now I can't say I don't. I used to not have any idea of what presses do, and now I do. Portland State does have a publishing program on campus, and they run a press called Ooligan Press, but they are a for-profit, and we've never been able to figure out how to cooperate just because the way in which our objectives are very different. So we're still thinking about how can we utilize these graduate students who want to get into publishing. So we now are able to offer these press-like services. We actually contract out the scribe and send our manuscripts out. And we also just recently became part of the OpenStax partnership, so we are now working with our Office of Academic Innovation, the library, as well as faculty and student government to try to get the word out, and so this is our sort of OER committee. So it's going above and beyond just our publishing and our creation piece. So that was my short but long intro.
Thank you both, and I think there's a lot of rich data, context, insights that you already shared, which I think should be fertile ground for hopefully thoughts, ideas, reactions, questions that folks in the audience have. So if there are any initial questions or reactions, please.
When you give a grant to a faculty member to produce an OER, what are they using that grant for? What specifically on a granular level?
So for us, it's whatever they want. So because we're giving them out only in the summer, And the library doesn't administer them, the Technology and Education Committee does, so we have nothing to do with it. And you were saying that you give them out piecemeal, they give it in one lump sum. So it's basically, the way we talk about it with them, it's for their time, like, so for the time that they spend over the summer working on it and then implementing it in their classroom. So we're not, at ours, we don't do as many amazing things, and hopefully someday we will. Because we did just join OTN, so maybe we'll be able to do those things. But we do also, we're producing not just textbooks, so we also are doing like open image collections and open video collections. So there's some slightly different things they're allowed to do. But so far it is mostly just for their time. Like some of them, the ones that were doing video, we're going to buy some different equipment with the money, so there is that, but primarily time.
So for us, a lot of it is time. So many of our faculty can only pay themselves in the summer while they work, so we actually create contracts for them and then pay them through that. Faculty also use it to pay for student assistance. Many of them utilize students in order to provide them sort of the research assistance to be able to not only locate like various OERs, but also for like helping with the writing or even the editing. Our books are reviewed, but it's very much an open review type of system. So the authors actually identify who their reviewers are going to be because it's looking at it more so for a pedagogical sort of perspective rather than, is it copy edited well or is it written well? So we encourage our faculty to pay their reviewers because it is a lot of work to do a review and they do require 3. Some of other examples that faculty have used, so with Scribe, for production services, we actually require them now to set aside a certain amount of money in order to be able to do the design and copy editing of their book. But other services have included buying software. So one of our open textbooks is in Arabic, and so she needed software in order to write her book. So we purchased that for her. We've had, I'm just trying to think. We sent one of our authors to a conference because she was talking about her open textbook and she needed some money to help her go to the conference and get some feedback about her textbook, and so that was part of the funding as well. So all of our authors actually have a spreadsheet and a budget, and again, it's all moving parts, things change, but that's what we work off of, and so they essentially identify how they want to spend their money, and then we work with them to get it spent out.
So I have a question. So originally when we were thinking of implementing these grants, we were thinking, we should just use the money for time release. But now if you're saying it takes 2 to 5 years to develop a book, that's probably not a great idea. But I'm wondering, how does that grant funding work if you're having to do it over a multi-year period? Because I know for us, we can't carry forward funds.
So we're lucky because it's donor funding.
Okay.
So
right.
we have it set aside that money is specifically being used for that. I will say if we were able to do course buyout, our books would be a lot faster. They would be done a lot quicker.
Faster. Okay.
Yeah, so I would say if you are doing course buyout, I would make sure your time frame is much smaller.
Okay.
Because that is what the faculty's sole focus should be.
Okay.
So I think in that case, then you wouldn't have as many sort of issues with timeline. But because we are not doing the course buyout, I've just needed to expand the time.
And I think that ours, it's possibly because they're doing different things and they're not always writing a brand new textbook. So for the most part, they do manage to finish it in the summer that they're working on it. Some of them aren't teaching the course until the spring, so they continue working on it through the fall. And then they teach it, and then they're like, I'm just gonna go back and edit like 20 sections. Because they discover things that work and that don't work. And so some of them are doing it, but we do, since we give it as a lump sum anyway, they do an accelerated timeline. But we don't do as many things with copy editing, and some of the things are smaller, or they're using platforms that already exist, so they're not doing the copy editing, because we aren't producing any print books.
Right.
It's mostly all online, so.
And I was just going to add, we actually encourage all of our faculty to teach with their books before they publish them. So all the faculty go and put their books into our LMS system and work with them for at least either a term or an entire year, because at the end of the day, it's a reflection on them. So we want to make sure that they have it just right and that they are going to continue to use it. So that's the other reason why our timeline has been extended, is because I do want the faculty to be able to teach with it before we officially publish it.
You said you put it into your what system?
Our LMS, our learning management system.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Acronyms.
Sorry.
Yeah, and for ours, I will say that most of the ones that are in the IR are linking out, like they're not a textbook that's there and available. There are, maybe half of them are something that's downloadable. For example, we have 21 open images. There's like 30 more that she hasn't uploaded yet, from a evolutionary development course. So she created the textbook on Pressbooks, and then she included all the images in the textbook, but then she wanted to make the SVG, the editable files, available. So she's putting all of those in the repository so they're downloadable, to make it as open as possible. So we do things like that, but again, not creating a textbook print version.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have another question.
No, please.
So, I'm the director of an academic library consortium in Illinois, and we're always asked, where do we find OER that we can repurpose? Are you putting your, I know you said OTN, you're depositing OTN. Are there other places that you're parking these resources in order that folks all over the place can find them?
Yeah, I'm gonna start repeating questions, which I realized I should have been doing
Oh,
for the video.
Yeah.
So the question is, for the ones you're creating, are you putting them somewhere because people have trouble finding OER because there's so many options? So yes, so we put them in the IR. We don't put any in OTN at the moment, but we do, like, so a lot of them are in OpenStax or Pressbooks, so they're findable that way or just through search engines. And then for the faculty at our institution, I do a lot of assistance helping them find materials to start out with anyway. So I do go and meet with most of them when some of them have identified already what things they want to work with, some of them don't, and they just want me to give them available options. So I will find things for them and then make them review them because I'm not an expert in a lot of the things they're looking at. So we do that, and I have created, there's a LibGuide, which everyone has one, but it's overly comprehensive. I need to make it easier. But so we do have that for faculty to go look at immediately, and in the IR, there's a bunch of quick links to various the most common questions that come up, so the faculty can go look at that if they have easy questions to answer about where to find OER. So we do that kind of thing.
Yeah, and for our books, they're all in the Open Textbook Library. We also just recently started to put our books in the BC Campus Library, BC Campus Library, I think that's what it's called. Because we are now adding a version that people can edit, so that was one of their requirements. We also put all of ours in our IR as well. And then we create catalog records. So all of our books get original catalog records.
And I should have said, we are starting to do that. So it's one of the things I have to work on this fall. So the technical services team just gave me access to the catalog, which I didn't have before, and now I have to.
My catalogers.
They weren't gonna
They
do it for
catalog
me,
that
so I
for
will be doing that. But so we will have them in there as well. Yes.
What are the top 3 challenges that you've encountered? It sounds like you've done fantastic work, but what are the top 3 challenges that you've encountered, and how have you addressed them as you've sort of gone on?
So the question is, what are the top 3 challenges and how have we addressed them?
So I would say the first challenge is actually getting faculty to want to write their open textbook. It sounds like I have a lot of faculty that start off with a really amazing ideas, and then they figure out sort of how much time it's actually going to take and how they need to balance all of that. So one of my most known mantras is, we're going to do it in the spirit of the project. So when in doubt, if things go awry, let's figure out what the spirit of the project is, and let's refocus and let's get the book done and completed. I'm also very, very flexible. So I attempt to make sure that the faculty knows that if something is happening, come talk to me, come speak to me, and we will work through it, we will figure it out. And that has been sort of, I would say, one of the best. The second is the funding and the money. We still do not pay our faculty enough to be able to create. Creating an open textbook is a lot of work. It's a lot of manpower. It's a lot of additional work on the side. And I wish we could do course buyout. I wish we could do more, but what we have been able to do is all that, by having us be able to, get more money has been great, but I have no idea how long this is gonna last for. And I would say that the third challenge is probably not like every time we do a call for proposal, I re-look at our call for proposal and rewrite it because I missed something, or something wasn't clear, or somebody was thinking it was going to be something else. And so I think really sometimes the communication as to what it is you're doing on campus and why always needs to be refined. And I'm always surprised when people have never heard of OER, open textbooks. Even though we've been doing this since 2014 on campus. And I think part of it is just that communication piece.
Yeah, so our first two are exactly the same thing. So getting faculty, well, yours was more about faculty getting them to do, well, it's faculty interest.
Yes.
So when we did go around to the departmental meetings with our biology faculty member who is the chair of the committee, some of them were much more receptive to the idea of creating OER. Some were very entrenched in, no, that sounds terrible. And they had many sort of mistaken beliefs about what OER were. And so some of that, trying to explain what it can, what it is and what it can be, and how they can do it, even if they don't think they should or have to or want to. So that, and then money and sustainability of the program, because I don't know if we're gonna have money for 2020, since we did for the last 3 years, yes, but the first year we had the smallest amount, and then the second year the biggest amount, and then this third year it's less than the second year, so I don't know if it'll go down, if it'll disappear entirely. I think that it's still very popular on campus, and they do promote it in various ways, so I think that it will get money, but I don't know how much yet, and since we get it from the provost office and non-donors, and there are budget cuts and so on. And then the third thing for us, I think, is the perception of quality. So you said that you do things for review, they get 3 reviews. We don't currently do that, which I think is a problem and needs to be addressed. So we're very excited that one of the ones in 2019 is on infectious diseases, and he got an MOU with the American Society of Parasitology or something like that. Yeah. To review it for him when he finishes it, and that's very exciting because that's a really high quality review that's going to happen, and we need to have more like that. And so that's something that some of the faculty are concerned about, which just makes total sense. And because we now belong to the OTN, we'll be able to put things there. We'll be able to, they do. The reviews happen within OTN, on an
open reviews
open
after
sort,
they've been published. Yeah.
Crowdsourced version. But that will be helpful at least because then there will be some review of it. So that would be our third one, I think. Yes.
Have either of your institutions offered credit for tenure and promotion to the faculty who create open education materials?
No. So the question is, do they get credit for P&T for OER? The answer is no. We have discussed it, so the committee has discussed it a couple times, which is made up of faculty members and then me and my counterpart in CTL who left. But so it is mostly faculty members, and they're like, this is a way that we'd be able to get people to do it, probably more. But currently, no, it is not offered. I did learn of a way, if you get the student, associated student group, whatever they're called.
SGA?
Yes.
Yeah.
Student government?
Yes, student government. If you can convince them to offer an annual award to the best OER on campus, that award can be used for P&T, which would make faculty probably more interested, and it's kind of an easy way because it's not as complicated as getting it into the P&T process. So just convince your SGA. So I will be working on that with them when I get back to it.
I think it's UT Chattanooga, their library partners with their SGA for that award.
I think that was, yes, because I was at a conference and they talked about it. Yeah. So yes, so that's definitely something that would be good to try.
Yeah. No.
Sorry, do you have a
clarify and go back over the book? So if you're doing a book on infectious diseases, obviously things change, and
Yes.
especially in the home. Do you have a process for reviewing those books on a periodic basis to make sure they're up to date?
So the question is, do we go back and review the books on a periodic basis to make them sure they're up to date? So the faculty do. So the one in 2019, it's not out of date yet, because it's still. But the one of the ones I know from 2017, the first year, it's on OpenStax. So he modified the OpenStax microbiology book and then used it. And he's been using it in every time he's taught that course since then. And he does go and revise and review it every semester to make sure that it's up to date and it is working the way he wants it to pedagogically. So they do, the faculty do that, yes.
It is highly encouraged. I have a student that goes through every summer and kind of looks to make sure that like the links aren't 404 errors. But I do have a book, for example, right now that is like out of date, and I've been trying to email the professor and say, you wrote this chapter on an iOS system that is no longer even used. It's outdated, and how are we going to handle this? And the professor has not responded back to me. So that will be something that I will need to, I'm hoping to be able to hire somebody to kind of help me with that and sort of address like what books need to be updated. It is one of the largest challenges because you do just depend on the faculty continuously teaching with the book and updating it, but sometimes that doesn't always happen, or if the faculty leave, then what happens? So those are some things that we're trying to figure out and are still sort of kind of grappling with, but that's a really good question.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about them leaving, and now that's a terrifying thought.
Yes.
Thanks, Karen.
You're welcome. Happy to help.
Tell us more about, is there a question there? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit more about faculty development, training at the beginning of the process and ongoing support and who is providing all of that?
Yes, so the question is about the faculty development and ongoing support through the process and how at the beginning when we introduce them to it. So at my institution, each summer, at the beginning of the summer, we were offering a 3 to 4 hour workshop on OER, which anyone was welcome to come to, but all of the grant award winners were required to come to in order to get their paychecks. So they would come and we would give them an introduction to Creative Commons and where to find additional OER, where to get things like the homework assignments and supplemental materials beyond the textbook. So that workshop was given by myself from the library and the Center for Teaching and Learning and Instructional Designer. So we would do that at the beginning of the summer, and then we created a Canvas course for it through our LMS, and enrolled them all in it, and then had periodic check-ins where we would ask them to answer some questions about how their progress was going so that we could kind of track what they were doing and so they could see each other's responses and sort of help each other, because often there was many faculty from the same discipline or from the same areas, and we thought it would be helpful, and it was very helpful because when several of them were doing OpenStax textbooks and one of them had figured out how to use the back-end OpenStax method of revising a textbook, and the other ones hadn't, and so they had a separate meeting by themselves to go over that, so that was really useful. And then we would have periodic check-ins where one of us would email them and talk to them about the projects, or they would come in to meet with us and talk about them, so we did that kind of ongoing support. I continue to reach out to them to get statistics on what's happening and how many students they taught that semester so that we can track everything. And I do, after the first time they teach it, ask them to do a sort of assessment on the students to see what their reaction was to having an OER in the course, and to share that back with me, and then I share that with the committee, and we discuss things like that, how it's going.
Do you provide that assessment or do they come up with it?
So there are free assessment materials online, OER versions, and I share those with them and say these are some suggestion questions that I would recommend you use. And this is what someone else at Pacific did, so you can kind of see, and then they usually just use those because that's easier than making up their own. But so yes, I do help with that.
So we're almost out of time, actually.
Yeah,
Which is surprising. Yeah, so we also require a workshop. So all of the grantees are required to attend an hour-and-a-half workshop. And it's very much just the opportunity for all of them to get to know each other and see who else is getting the grant. And so then that focuses on, Creative Commons and copyright and what open actually means versus free, which is a very interesting conversation because it's very eye-opening to a lot of the faculty. And then I do one-on-one check-ins all the time. We meet for coffee and I sit and I chat with the author. They always bring their material. They show me where they're at, questions they have. And then we also have a very close relationship with our OAR, our Office of Academic Innovation. So any pedagogical questions, anything that goes directly to them, or I will, send the author to a subject liaison. So it's very much a one-on-one type of learning, just because each of our authors are at different places and their knowledge base is at a different place. So it's just sort of figuring out what assistance they need. I, for example, had one of our authors that wrote a Spanish textbook and he had a lot of material that was from Spain. So we needed to figure out if it met the various copyrights. So I worked with our copyright person and we had very long conversations about could we add this, could we not add this, what would it look like? And then I had another faculty who's writing a science fiction French textbook. And so thankfully they were both native French speakers. So they went and reached out to the French copyright office in Paris and wrote to them and got it all sorted out, and then they translated what they were supposed to do. And so we've kept all that, but that all happened just because of our one-on-one conversations and sort of figuring out what kind of work were they planning to do, what type of material were they looking at using, and what kind of assistance would they need. I think we're done.
We are out of time.
Yes.
Unfortunately, JG had warned me that this would be the easiest moderation session of my whole life, but because Michele and Karen are so pithy and insightful, I think, with all the comments that they shared, let's give them a round of applause, please. Thank you.